Welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. In New York today, jury selection began in a trial that will pit the law against terror. It's a $1 billion lawsuit against the PLO and Palestinian Authority over claims they're responsible for planning, executing, and financing of shootings and bombings in the early 2000s that killed 33 people and injured over 450. The PLO and PA have lost several bids to stop the case, claiming that a U.S. judge doesn't have the authority to preside over it. Joining me tonight are Dimitri Diliani of the Fatah Revolutionary Council. Thank you for being here,
Thanks
Dimitri.
For having me.
And Zeev Ben-Shachar, Director of Israel Education at Jerusalem U. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
But before we delve in, let's see what our viewers had to say. Narita, what can you tell us about that?
Good evening, Meredith. This case has been a long time in the making, 11 years after the suit was filed based on the Anti-Terrorism Act of 1991, and after, of course, as you mentioned, several appeals by the PLO and the PA that this court doesn't have jurisdiction in the first place. So we asked our viewers today if they think this New York court is actually right to try the PLO and PA on terror charges. Our poll actually was quite clear. 90% said they do have the right, 7% said no. A little more variation in our comments. I'll bring you a sampling of those. AB wrote, no, it will undoubtedly be a drawn-out farce, and after Israel halted revenues, the PA doesn't even have the money to pay its own people right now. So, of course, a reference to Israel halting some over $100 million in tax revenues after the Palestinian Authority moved to join the ICC. Another thing we'll get to with our viewers in a moment. Jacob said yes, and I will eagerly watch it proceed. He says it would be nice to see someone actually held directly accountable for terror against civilians for a change. Key point here, is law possible? Can we use the law to hold people accountable for terrorism? Connor wrote, why not take these terror acts to the ICC instead? So a pertinent question, a good question. And not clear exactly, will we see all of these cases in the ICC? Will it apply actually to all of the cases, some of which go back to 2001? And let's end with David, who says, yes, if victims are American, they should have a right to trial in their country, as should all victims of terror acts. He says terror has no borders, so why should the law? And with that, we end with a really key point. Trying to fight terror that has no borders, whether it's cyber terror or cells, asymmetrical warfare, how do you combat that? Is the law a way to do it? I'm sure you have a lively debate ahead of you, so I'll pass it back to you.
Well, thank you, Nurit. Now, is the law the way to do it? What is your opinion on that?
I think Israel has tried negotiations, has tried to not settle this in the court, and it hasn't worked out. And we've also seen a movement on behalf of the Palestinians, on behalf of the Palestinian Authority, to take these issues to the court, not just to a U.S. court, but to the International Criminal Court. And so I believe that the Palestinian Authority and Fatah and Hamas, of course, have to be accountable for their actions. These are U.S. citizens. There are representatives of the PA and PLO in the United States. And I think these people, these victims of terror, have every right to file a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that the victims have a right to sue in this case?
I think the victims do have the right to sue, and I am looking forward for these cases for a simple reason, because this will set a precedent for us to go against Israel. As you know, that even the number of victims of violence on the Palestinian side is much larger than it is on the Israeli side, simply because Israel is conducting a state-sponsored terrorism that, as you saw this past summer, over 2,300 Palestinians were killed. So this will set a precedent in U.S. courts. And if they want to win this case, or two cases, or three cases, and I highly doubt that there will be any link between the PLO and these actions that these victims are claiming that the PLO is responsible, but we have all the proof that direct orders were given to soldiers to kill people, civilians who are not part of any conflict. So in other words, by having the court to accept dealing with the issue, and I'm sure the PLO will be found not connected to this at all, This would by itself will set a precedent for us as Palestinians and a lot of Palestinian Americans who suffered on the hands of Israeli military and Israeli settlers, either by direct violence or by overtaking their land to build settlements, or even over roadblocks and all the miseries that we live under as Palestinians. These Palestinian Americans can take it to courts. So
but in
I'm
this
really
particular
glad
case,
this is
these
happening.
are Jewish Americans who lost their lives or were injured, whose families were injured in a terror attack, in bombings and shootings. Can you compare that necessarily to a military operation?
No, a military operation is much worse.
This is, to throw out the words state-sponsored terrorism without any backing, I think is irresponsible.
A lot of backing.
You have to be accountable for your language. And also, you talk about Palestinian casualties. These are the direct result of Hamas targeting civilians in Israel and then hiding behind them in the Gaza Strip.
Okay. If you're talking about being careful about choosing language, you are blaming victims. You're blaming kids that were killed. How far are you
I'm definitely not blaming the. I'm not blaming the victims. I'm blaming Hamas, and I'm blaming Palestinian leadership, and I'm blaming Fatah for signing a unity government with Hamas.
Well, there is no unity government. It's called reconciliation government. As a person in education, you should know the big difference. There are no Hamas members in that government. That's one. Two, would you blame the state of Israel and its killing and its F-16 bombings on civilians for the deaths of Israelis or Jews that were killed in terrorist attacks? Would you do that? And if you're not going to do that, don't apply a double standard over the Palestinians.
Of course, I'm not.
If we're going to do that, then let's open the books and we're ready to go to court.
I'm not blaming Israel. I'm blaming Hamas for.
So you blame
shooting
Hamas
at
for everything?
Not for
For the
everything.
deaths of
I
Israel?
also blame Fatah. I just want to make one point.
Do you want to blame
I
us
just want to make
also
one
for
point is that Dimitri is drawing moral equivalence between an army that does everything it can to protect civilians on both sides and between a terrorist organization that does everything it can to kill civilians on both sides.
The people are
So I think
conducting
this is a
occupation.
really great precedent.
But you are doing the same over people conducting the crime of occupation and people who have all the right to defend themselves.
Off topic here. Dimitri, I want to ask you, do you think an American court has a right to hold this trial, and what are the issues of jurisdiction?
I think that if a victim is American, they have the right to go to their justice system. As simple as that. Just as us Palestinians, who many of us carry different passports, French, German, American, Canadian, Brazilian, whatever, we will do the same. And I do believe that people that I'm against I'm against violence, but I'm against occupation more because it causes violence. And I believe that victims must have their day in court, and this doesn't go on racial, with no racial boundaries. It goes for us and them, us being victims of occupation, which is one of the worst forms of terrorism, and for them as people are victims of such acts that targets civilians. As simple as that.
Staying with what Dimitri is saying, do you feel that the Palestinians have a right to sue Israel for some of these actions that Dimitri is talking about?
The Palestinians have every right in the world to do that, but they should know that there will be consequences for going off the table and for leaving the negotiations
for
suing Israel on the in
so
the
you
ICC.
threaten me for going
I'm not threatening.
to courts?
I want to make a larger point here.
Yes.
That it comes back every time to the occupation is the root cause of poverty, suffering, terrorism, everything.
It's military occupation. Yes, it is.
There is a reason why Israel is in the West Bank.
And what is that?
First of all, when you say occupation, again, I ask you to be responsible with your language, because when you call this an occupation, you are implying that the Jewish people are foreign to the land of Israel, to Judea and Samaria.
I'm not talking about the Jewish people. I'm talking about the state of Israel, and there's a big difference. The state of Israel does not represent all world Jewry, and the state of Israel is a political occupying power. This has nothing to do with the Jewish people. A peaceful Jew living in Germany, France, US, or even Japan has nothing to do, no guilt with the criminal actions carried out by the racist, fascist state of Israel.
The
Yes.
state of Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people. The Jewish people have every right to the land of Israel.
So if
we
I
have a
believe,
right to Judea and
if I
Samaria,
believe that
and we
Tel
have
Aviv is my homeland, I have the right to occupy
and
it.
It's not a matter of belief. It's not your
a matter of-
homeland.
Hold on. Let's stop on this.
Let me just
so
finish
you're
my
telling
sentence.
me that
please.
my town,
We
my
have
hometown, Jerusalem, is
continuous-
your whatever
you are
it is,
free to live.
and it's
Dimitri,
not me.
you are
no,
free
no.
to live in
After
Jerusalem.
you ethnically cleansed
Again,
more than
you are
70% of the people.
You are throwing
I'm
out
describing-
terms
I'm
irresponsibly, and I want you to
cannot
be
handle
accountable.
the truth.
I want you to be accountable for your
You
language.
have to be accountable
If you want
for
to talk
what
about
you're trying
ethnic
to
cleansing,
Of course,
look
it's
at
ethnic
the Middle
cleansing.
East.
I'm
and
looking
at
at
the
my
Middle East
hometown.
that is ethnically
I'm
cleansed.
looking at my
of
hometown.
Jews.
It is
I'm looking at my
difficult
hometown.
to, it is
I'm
difficult
looking
for
at my
our viewers to
hometown.
understand what
Jews
both of you
after
are saying.
1948.
Gentlemen,
You always run away. You always run
gentlemen,
away.
please, for our, we do,
1.5
Mr. Ben-Shachar,
million Arabs living in Israel today.
called
If that's
Palestinians.
equal citizens, and if that's ethnic cleansing, then I don't know what is.
Okay,
look
we'll
at the
bring
Middle
it all
East.
back down.
Look at the Middle East and look at your leader Mahmoud Abbas, who said that the Palestinian state, if it ever were to be established, will be free will be ethnically clean of Jews.
No.
So please
No, he did not
get
say
your
that.
language
Mr. Diliani.
He
right.
did not. You must be held accountable for known facts. Anybody who's viewing this can go to Google and
He said there
review
would
President
not be
Abbas's.
Jews
Gentlemen.
He said there will be
in
no
the
settlers. I will not
Gentlemen,
accept settlers.
gentlemen, Dimitri,
nor-
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Let's bring this all back to why we are here this evening. Back
Which is
to
to make
legal
peace.
proceedings. We would love to make peace. If we could make it right in the studio, that would
this
be
guy
perfect.
believes that he has the right to live in my hometown.
But
How
let's
am I
okay.
wrong?
Let's
This one.
It's
back
my
to
home,
the
you can live
topic,
with me.
please.
Then
Back to
then
the
there's no
topic.
talking with you.
Let's why perhaps isn't this being carried out in the ICC? And we know that the Palestinians are trying to join
great.
and want to take Israel to the International Criminal
We
Court.
welcome
But
that.
are the Palestinians on the flip side prepared for the risk that Israel could take them?
We are welcoming that. You have to understand that we are the victims of occupation. Any military occupation, the victims are not the people who are conducting the occupation. It's people who are under occupation. That's why occupation is illegal. So we are welcoming any act that will take these cases to the ICC. We are going to the ICC. We will take Israel to the ICC. We'll take every single soldier that ever hit Palestinian kid to the ICC. That parent's kid are going to take that soldier to the ICC. It's not only a state's action, it's going to be individual action. And we welcome the state of Israel if they dare. You see, a criminal will stay out of the courts because it would open all doors to hell for them. And we will welcome that. And we are waiting for Netanyahu and his gang to go to the ICC with any claim. Then we will see Netanyahu not leaving the borders of Israel because this is a criminal state.
But is this a solution, though? Would taking each other to the ICC, in theory, bring them together and cause any sort of resolution?
The truth needs to be told. And that is that Fatah members, backed by the Palestinian Authority, are committing terrorism against the Jewish people, against Israelis, not just between 2000 and... Can you let me finish, please?
Last night?
Not just between
Please, please,
2001 and
please.
2004, but even as we speak, Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades, who are a branch of the Fatah, which you're a member of,
Yes.
are shooting indiscriminately at Israelis in homes, in kindergartens, and you're not saying anything about it. Why are you holding?
What are you talking about?
Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades.
Did you make this up driving here?
Took responsibility. When was that? In the recent war
When
in
was that?
Operation Protective Edge, they were
The Al-Aqsa Brigades
engaging.
were dismantled
Okay, we
in
can-
2005.
They're still operating.
Protective Edge,
They're
we
still
have talked about
operating.
it
And I did not
extensively.
hear many.
Kahana's gang is still
I did
operating
not
with different
hear
names.
many condemnations.
Okay.
Are you willing to condemn Hamas terrorism and Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade's terrorism right now?
Fatah, the president, condemned
Are you-
terrorism. We on both sides. We condemn violence on both sides.
you
We
just
act
willing-
on it. You cannot face the truth. You have look.
without
When
the disclaimer, are you willing to
racism
condemn
reaches the
Hamas
level
and
of your
terrorism?
speech, when racism looks like a professor wearing a tie, it becomes even more dangerous. You know why? Because you use very sly language to tell the people lies. We are the people wanting peace. Peace is in our advantage. We want to build the state. And on the other side, you are the one that claims that my hometown is yours. So you are keeping the military occupation, and you have the guts to sit in front of people contradicting yourself and say, let's talk and let's negotiate.
Dimitri,
you should be sorry.
You are not
you
coming
should
across.
Be sorry.
Can I just finish
Please
my
make your point,
sentence?
yes.
You're not coming across as a very peaceful person right now. And
okay, you look like a peaceful person, but your beliefs and actions are not.
I believe that I have truth on my side.
I'm a victim. I have to be emotional because I'm in pain.
Maybe it's enough
in the comfort
to take
of your home.
the
Find other people.
Clearly, this debate could go on all evening, but unfortunately, that is all the time we have.
Taking responsibility for your
Ben-Shachar.
people.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We do have to finish. Obviously, this is a very heated debate. We went off topic a little bit, but thank you very much, Mr. Ben-Shachar and Dimitri Diliani, for being here tonight. We are taking a short break. Next up, One on One.